Welcome back to Cask and Point. Today we are trying something that I've been wanting to try for a very long time. Rare character Brook Hill. Now if you don't know much about Rare Character, in 2021 two friends, Pablo and Peter, started the company. They source all of their whiskeys and they source them from some amazing places, MGP, Heaven Hill, Wild Turkey, whatnot, and they have a bunch of different offerings. So some of those lines are like TKO, which is a rye sourced from Dickel, but it doesn't have the Lincoln County process, and people really like it. They have KOA, which is my personal favorite. As you can see, I have quite a few bottles of it here. This is around 9 years, around 140 proof, and people think it's Barton, but we don't really know, but it's probably Barton. And then they have many other things. They have finished whiskeys like Amberana finishes and a bunch of other things. And one of those lines of whiskey that they have is Brook Hill. Now, Brook Hill was a company in around the turn of the 20th century, and it was famous because it was innovative. And Rare Character wanted to pay respects to them and bring their label back. And so they call this line Brook Hill. It's sourced MGP whiskey, and they had 8 bourbons and 6 ryes in their first release. And the ryes were all 11 years old, the bourbons were all 10 years old. And those ryes are in the mid-120s proofs, all MGP again, all distilled in Indiana, aged in Indiana, and then just bottled by Rare Character. And then the bourbons were 10 years old and a little bit higher proof, maybe around 130 proof. But I want to do this review because not only do I have the bottle of it here, but we also have gotten our second release of Brook Hill, and there have been some 8 years and some 15 years. And these 15 years are commanding $600 MSRP, and they've just come out, but they're commanding about $1,200 on secondary. So we'll see how long that stands up, but they are commanding a pretty penny. So I wanted to sit down with this Brook Hill rye, see how good it is, and as always, give it a rating, and let's talk about it. But let's try this. So on the nose, there's quite a bit of rye candy, some caramel, some red fruit, caramels, plums, some cherries. It's good. It's not particularly unique, I will say, and we do have some old MGP whiskey. Like, we have this short barrel right here is 131.4 proof, 12-year MGP whiskey. So that bottle is around $120, and it's very good, but commanding about 4 times that on secondary, and even its MSRP is about $250. I'm very curious to see if these Brook Hills are going to be similar, be way better. I theorize that they're modeling after Willett's. So Willett used to source their whiskeys. MGP was one of the biggest places that they sourced from, but they picked like the most amazing MGP whiskeys. And I think it's pretty obvious based off of this bottle design. I mean, Willett right here, it's a little bit similar. And even if we look at the backs here, again, just really strikingly similar bottles. So I think that's what they're doing with it. And obviously, I mean, if that purple top was a green top and had a green cap, they'd look even closer. Maybe it's just my opinion, but that's what I think. But anyways, let's get back to this game. Yeah, rye candy, some red fruit, a little bit of caramel. Not super complex, not super interesting, but let's try it. Okay. Way better on the palate. It's really good. Yeah, that's really good. So, it's actually quite similar to the short barrel, but the thing with the short barrel, and what I think happens with a lot of MGP whiskeys, is that there's a very strong herbal note. And this one doesn't have that herbal note. This one is just rye candy, spice, caramel, tons of fruit. That's a really nice rye. Now, the bottle that I have is Las Palmas, and what we're drinking today is Rare Character Kendo. So it's a slightly different offering. They're all single barrels, so I mean they literally sourced 6 barrels of rye and 8 barrels of bourbon to do the first release, and maybe probably around the same for the second release. So very few. People say Las Palmas is a lot better. If it's a lot better than this, I'm pretty excited to try this bottle one day. But this is very good. I think it's clearly beating that short barrel. It's similar. Like, I am getting a lot of the similar rye candy notes on it, but it's removing all of the herbal notes and just giving me more rye candy, more spice, more fruit, more of the things I really like, and taking away that herbal MGP that I'm not really the biggest fan of. Let's try another sip here and see how much my mind changes. It's a great rye. It's a great rye. It's beating, Old Forester single barrel strength, Michter's barrel strength rye easily. It's pure rye candy. So much of this like candied note on it. And a little bit of dill, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of like dark fruit on this one. I mean, the flavors are definitely darker than I was expecting, and they're actually much darker on the second sip than the first sip. So, yeah, that's good. That's really good. I'm disappointed. I was hoping that was not going to be that good, and I was going to make fun of Brook Hill for charging crazy amounts of money, but that is really nice here. Let's take another sip. So it starts with caramel and rye candy, and then it just gives you fruit, tons of fruit, some sweet oak, some like a little bit of musty oak. I mean, that is amazing. And it tastes 122 proof. Like it tastes its proof. It's not it's not super hot, but it's not tame. It's not thin. That's a really nice whiskey. I really like that. Oh, that's going to be in the 8s for sure. I'm even debating if it's in the mid-8s right now. I mean, that is so good. And I think the reason why it's good is because it's giving you good flavors, and it's giving you a lot of those flavors. I think, I rate a lot of whiskey on this channel. Everything has a rating that we've ever reviewed so far. And a lot of times when a rye is not hitting that 8 mark, it's because they're either a little light, like I think the Michter's Barrel Strength Rye, or the good flavors there just aren't that many of them. So even if there's a punchiness to it, like it's like 1 or 2 good flavors, like the bubblegum note on Old Forester Single Barrel Strength Rye, it's good, but that's all I really get out of that. So it's just not going to compete with something like this. And I mean, we're in a different ballpark right now. I mean, I'm comparing this to $80, $100 ryes because those are the barrel strength ryes we have on the market. This is much more, in the camp of, Thomas H. Handy over here. I think it's much closer to that than it is to those other ryes here. I mean, that is so good. Let's take one final sip and then we'll give it a rating. Yeah. I mean, rye candy. There's like even like a little bit of black tea on it, like similar to like a Thomas Handy, and red fruit. There is a little bit drying at the end, I will say, to knock some points off. It's, there's like a peppery taste to it, but then it's just kind of like a dry tannic oak that really takes you out, which I don't love, which is what I think is going to prevent this from like getting into like a 9s, 9.5, stuff like that. But that's an amazing rye. I would absolutely love a bottle of this, and I have a bottle of this, so I'm happy. I think that's a great showing from Brook Hill. I will say, I did try one other Brook Hill rye. I went to a rare character dinner a few weeks ago with, actually Pablo was there, Pablo Mokes, I don't know how to say his name, but Pablo was there, and he actually brought a Brook Hill 11-year rye that was off the market, and he let us try it, and it was bad. It was really bad. I'm not gonna lie. This is way better. Like this isn't even the same product to me, and I was really disappointed after that because I have the bottle, and I want to have good bottles. But this is really good. I would highly recommend this. Unfortunately, right now I would rate this an 8.4. I think it's gonna beat probably one of my favorite ryes that isn't Thomas Handy, which is this Wild Turkey Master's Keep Unforgotten. That I absolutely love it. I think it's beating that. I think it's really holding its own. I think if it didn't have as much of a peppery, kind of drying aftertaste, it would really be high 8s, but that's an amazing rye. I'd pay $250 for it. I probably wouldn't pay $500 for it though, to be fair. I wouldn't pay $450, I wouldn't pay secondary for it, but I get it. I see why they're charging what they're charging. I like it. It's good stuff. But thank you all for watching. In a future video, we will be trying the bourbons. I do have a sample of Societe, which is a bourbon, and maybe getting some other ones in soon. So stay tuned for that. But for now, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.